Hey everybody, welcome back to the next episode of the Legacy Liftoff podcast by Dronadair. I am your host, Cody Retlick, and today with me I have Nick Lang. Nick, appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, dude, appreciate you having me on here, man. We met back in 2019 at EAA, where, I mean, we were like two kids, man, looking up at looking up at the teams flying over and being like, "This is crazy, this is incredible," and meeting at that drone pavilion that we had. That was a lot of fun, man. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know. I had to look back at what year it was before I had you on the podcast. I was like, hey, what year was that? Because
Yeah,
they got rid of that completely,
I
like
know,
the
man.
year
It was
after we
fun.
left.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Um,
was looking forward to going back again. I mean, EAA is like a bucket list. It was like I was so excited to go back, and then I found out they weren't doing it. It's like, damn, man.
yeah, I think something with COVID, and then they got rid of it, and it's like it was a great like marriage though. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
drones at an EAA get people involved a little bit more, and yeah, we were doing some cage flying and some
yeah.
demonstrations and presentations. It was fun.
It was a lot of
Um,
fun, man.
but
It's
yeah,
like favorite memories in like the drone industry. Is seriously like that week was incredible.
yeah, it was fantastic. I wish they would bring it back, but hey, we got to connect, and
Yeah.
yeah, I
And
I
it's
don't.
it's been fun following your journey too, man. Like when you hit me up, I was watched the intro podcast, and like, man, I just gotta say, man, I have a ton of respect for you, and it's great you're doing the podcast. It's like a lot of people say, like, yeah, I want to start a podcast. Like I'm one of those people. I would love to have a podcast, but I thought of it a million times. I've never done it, man. You're doing it, so it's great. And for guys like myself, man, like we love it. We're able to talk drones, and you give us a platform and just mutual like sharing and stuff like that. It's great, man. It's a lot of fun, and I'm honored to be here, man. Really appreciate
I
you having me on.
well, I appreciate the kind words, man, and yeah, it's been something I've been wanting to do for a while. It's just like, hey, rip the Band-Aid off and let's get it done. But I'm
Yeah,
having a lot of fun sharing stories, and I'm really excited to share your story because you've done some badass stuff, and I want to get into it because you've been all over the place lately, and I feel like you've done so many amazing shoots, and you've come. I mean, even in the 5 years that since we've known each other, been following your journey as well. Just kind of see the transition and see the trajectory, the upwards trajectory of what you've done is fantastic. But if you've listened to other podcast episodes, I love to start at the beginning, and it's
yeah,
telling your story from, it doesn't have to go back all the way to you first walking, but
right.
if
First,
that's where your love of technology or drones started, we can start there. But that's kind of where I love to first hear. It's like I
yeah,
know you were in the beginning, even before drones, right? Like you were a cinematographer, DP,
yep,
director, producer. You were kind of more in that production world. But before that, even like,
yeah.
give us your story of where you started for, what were you doing before that, or how did you
Yeah,
get into?
yeah. I think the common theme was I have a very obsessive personality where like if I get into a hobby, like I really, really get into a hobby, right? So like even as a kid, like I remember like obsessing over getting like a Red Ryder for Christmas, right? And then like the next year was like a paintball gun and then like inline skates. I got like a ramp in the backyard. But these little like hobbies only lasted about maybe a summer, right? Or like and then I'd move on to the next one. I got like an electric keyboard at one point in like
Nice.
college. It was not nice. It was not nice. But yeah, I went through like these phases, and like that's just kind of like my personality where I really get into something. And I remember when I got into drones, I mean, it was just like everyone in my family thought it was going to be just like a phase of mine. Like I showed up to like family parties at a tiny whoop and I was like, oh, check this out, check this out. And at the time, like they didn't have, the ability for real estate or anything like that. But I remember specifically when I started like really considering drones, as you said, I was doing regular cinematography, videography. I was doing weddings. So, I mean, hats off to the wedding filmmakers
Hey,
out there. You learn a lot in that industry. Anybody that talks, shit on the wedding industry, it's taught me so much about just like reacting to live moments and like that pressure. So it gets a bad rep, but it teaches a lot. So I was doing a lot of that, corporate events, and I remember just seeing this video over like this bridge or this uh, low bridge over water, and I'm like, oh, is this like a steady cam on a boat, I guess? And it got higher. I'm like, oh, it's like a jib on a boat, and then it just kept going. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what is this? Like, is that a helicopter? I didn't even see the water move or anything like that. And then I found out it was a drone. And I was working at a production company at the time. And I go to my boss and I'm like, Matt, man, we got to see this video. Like, we got to get one of these things. And then he's like, well, let's research. We looked it up, and it was like, I mean, yeah, to have at least 100K to be doing that. What we wanted to do. I mean, this was back in probably 2010 or 11, I think. And
Yeah,
yeah,
so
so
pre-Phantom, first
yeah,
Phantom,
yeah,
at
yeah,
that point, right? They
yeah.
didn't even have those.
No, no, no. It was like the Cine Star. I mean, these were high quality, huge octocopters that were just, I mean, dangerous probably to fly with, considering what's available now. But, anyways, so yeah, I was, just kind of in the back of my head, and then I started freelancing, and then I started working for a show for PBS in Philly, Articulate with Jim Cotter, and well, right before that, I told my girlfriend at the time, who now is not my wife. I told her, I said, babe, I don't know how I'm going to get one of these things, but I'm going to get a drone. And I'm just telling you, like, I think I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And she, she knows my personality. She's like, okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll see.
We'll see. We'll
She's like,
see.
yeah, it sounds cool. Sounds fun. Like, and then, like, I'm like, I just remember being that exact conversation and just like, really truly believing it and almost like just seeing it like play out in my head, like, no, 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 I think this is going to be pretty big. Like I have a good feeling about this. So I was working for this PBS show, and the producer's like, hey, we want to do something that is not your cookie cutter PBS show. Like we want to bring a lot of like creativeness to the table and like do all these cool like camera moves, and like what ideas you have. And I said, well, I can't afford one, but I know they're out there. It's called a drone, and I can do these crazy looking like shots, these aerial shots. And the producer's like, oh yeah, I got a Phantom 1 or something at my house, and I can't fly it. And I'm just like, my jaw just dropped because I was already working there for like a month. And he's like, you could borrow it, for like a weekend or so. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, sure,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
sure, yeah. And inside I was just like ecstatic. So like I brought it home, and I remember, man, reading the manual for that thing, afraid to fly it, because I'm like, this isn't my drone. So I got started off with a very like meticulous approach to it, where I really wanted to understand it before I even took it off. So by the end of the weekend, I put it up in the air, and I'm flying around my apartment, and it was just a GoPro Hero 1 with no gimbal or anything. I put it through warp stabilizer. I brought it in, and my boss was like, dude, this looks great. Like let's go all in. And at the time, a few months later, we were able to invest in like the DSLR Pros. Phantom 2 just came out, and it was like the H3 gimbal, and that was with the GoPro Hero 4, and we were happy with that result. So I started flying it, and he just sent me on these missions just to go get B-roll, and I would shoot for hours in Philadelphia, pre 107 days, where it was just like, like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm flying a drone. Yeah. So, I mean, I was always aware of my surroundings, but it's kind of crazy to think about it now, knowing where the, the policies are at. But yeah, so I got in early, very fortunate to get in early. And then I just started looking into other drones. I started racing. And that's when switch kind of flipped, when I was like, man, this racing drones is just so much fun. And I was just like in it for like the community that I met locally, and just like the thrill of it, and like the nerves you get when you're racing. Like I loved all that. And I'm just like, man, if I could put like a camera on here, and like just we could get some pretty epic footage. And at the time, it was just thinking like chase footage and stuff like that, because Real Steady, I didn't know about Real Steady at all. And then through the drone racing scene, I made these like documentaries of drone racing recaps. I'd go all over the place and film just traditional cameras, these recap videos. So I got on my YouTube page, I probably got like 20 little mini documentaries. And at one of those events, I met a guy, and he's like, yeah, have you heard of Real Steady? I'm like, no, what's Real Steady? And this was before it was Real Steady Go. So it was basically a plugin for After Effects. It was like $500, and it took like the entire night to render it out to get it stable. So he gave me a free code for it. And I was sitting on this like free software for like 3 months, being like, oh, I'll try it out. It seems like a long process. And one day I went out and I got the footage, and I stabilized, and I was like, whoa, like this is usable. Like this is something that I could like charge for, and from that point on, I just started like thinking differently about everything. I'm like, I still do the, Inspire stuff. I was still doing Mavic work. I was still doing regular traditional drone work, but I'm thinking like, man, this FPV stuff is real potential. And I remember even writing down a Post-it note, like there's somewhere over there, but there's a Post-it note that I just like came up with this like fly through tour idea where I'm like, wrote down these check boxes, and I was like micro drone. I didn't have a micro drone, so there was a box with no check mark in it. And then I was like lightweight camera, and there was a box with no check mark. And then just over the 6 months, I started checking off the boxes. And then I got to a point where, you know, I was flying the Shen drones, Squirt at the time, and my parents were selling their rental, and I'm like, hey, let me fly through it. And I did a fly through, and I posted it on YouTube. I think it's like one of the first real estate fly throughs like that was ever even out there. And then it just, you know, it was a hard sell at first, because like you tell somebody what you're about to do, and they're like, oh man, I got a cousin that has a drone. No way you're flying that through my house.
Mhm.
Like so there was a lot of like, no, let me show you, let me do it for free, you know, type thing where you know, there's a little bit of that, of course, when you starting out, just to get that reel going and that trust. But yeah, I think once that real steady became part of my workflow, I started really, really diving into it, and just email every production person I knew and say, hey, check this out. And they heard it was a GoPro, and I'm like, I know it's a GoPro, but just
Mhm.
look at this shot. And it's like, yeah. And then I had a good amount of success. Like I just got in early, and I was just really, really passionate about it. So I was, you know, talking to everybody about it, and like it's infectious. Like if you're on a job and you're filming a regular video, and you're like, dude, check this out, and like you get to demo it, and then they see, you know, the results and professionalism, then it just spirals, and you know, it just trickles over to more work. But yeah, I'd say and of course, like I didn't have any like major big clips go viral. I had a fly through of there's an antique like car mall, classic auto mall locally, and right before COVID hit, I did a fly through with my Cinewhoop, and Car and Driver picked it up, and they did like an interview, and they interviewed me, and they put it on their website, and it went viral on Facebook and Instagram. But like I wasn't getting the tags. Like it was like it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, ah man. And that became like kind of a story of my life. He's like, or a story of my career, because there's so many moments I had that when you do work, as you know, for like a production company, you know, it's their footage, and it's like it's fine, whatever. And there was like a Nitro Circus one where Wild Willie did this like scooter ramp jump, and it went mega viral. I'm talking like a cumulative of like 700, 800 million views. And Nitro
I
Circus,
remember that.
yeah, Nitro Circus posted it, and I'm just not the guy to be like, hey, like, you know, what the hell, man? Tag me, tag me,
That
tag me.
was
So like,
me.
yeah, so like I see it just like climbing the charts, and like as you know, like a lot of work comes from Instagram and Facebook and like social media. So, but I'm bringing that story up because at the same time, there were other pilots that were going viral. Like Air Blaster was like one of the first guys, you know, that really like made the scene like public. And then of course like Johnny FPV, Benno, and um, uh, of course Jaybird. So like when Jaybirds fly through of the bowling
Bowling.
alley hit, that kind of like started having people call me and be like, hey Nick, like I know you do drone work. Do you do stuff like this, or like do you do FPV? And I'm like, I've been doing FPV for like 4 years. Like yeah, like here, like let's do something. And yeah, like I'm thankful, and anybody in the industry should be thankful for guys like that, because even though it didn't happen to you, like it created buzz in our world. So you know, and those guys won't have to ever check their, so we'll never have to send an email again. So it's like, you know, they're getting work all the time. You know, one video, you know, blew up, and then another one, and another one, another one, and now Jaybird's doing some of the top best stuff I've ever seen. And that's how it happens. Like you get
Yeah.
yourself out there, and you deliver too, because it's one thing to like go viral, and then that be it. But you have to keep performing, and guys like that, have that.
Big
So
time. Yeah.
yeah. So of course, you know, I see some of the videos. I'm like, damn, I wish that was me. But then you know what? There's a lot of people that look at my stuff and be like, man, I wish I was doing all that golf stuff. Like, man, and like I'm super like like, I want to call myself humble, but I'm very aware of how lucky I am to be doing what I'm doing. So like, there's not a moment when I'm out there flying that I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm up at like 5 a.m. flying this golf course.
Mhm.
Like, I'm very like aware of anytime a little bit I get a little frustrated or just like tired. I'm just like, man, there's people that would kill for this right now. So like,
Yeah.
you know, shut up and fly, because like you could be doing so much. You could be doing a lot worse stuff than
Yep.
flying at Augusta National or like PGA
Right.
Champions. Like.
Well, and hey,
Thank
that's the
you.
thing is like I remember messaging you when you posted your master's stuff or you reposted it, and that's like one of the things that like I'm like, dude, what? Like this is amazing. I'm like, I am so jealous right now,
It's crazy.
knowing that I obviously big golfer myself. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and you've
What-
done a lot of big things.
Oh no, that's
And
yeah, that's got to be rough then because I'm not even a golfer. Like so, yeah, that's tough. That's tough because like I have a huge appreciation for the sport now. Like I'm now a fan. Like I can like talk golf, I can watch golf. Like I love it now. Like, but when I started, I had no idea who these guys were. And like uh, the first time I was at Augusta, it was 2022, no 2023, so last year, and man, I get like goosebumps even thinking about it. My grandfather was a huge golfer, and he passed a few years ago. And I have one of his golf tie clips on me at all times when I'm doing the golf stuff. And like there was a moment at Augusta when I'm at the 12th hole, and uh, I just felt like his presence there. I was like, this is incredible. Like it was 6 a.m. It was me and one producer, nobody else in the course. I'm at Amen Corner, like just mind blowing. And it's actually crazy story is we were doing the shot, and my favorite drone to fly is like the micro drones, like a 2 inch, 2.5 inch drone, because you can just go through like such small gaps. And I
Mhm.
was telling the producer, I'm like, I think we can go through like the dogwoods over there. And he's like, yeah, let's try it. So like I put the little 2 inch drone in there, and it was windy. So like I'm in the dogwood tree. I'm just, like trying to stabilize myself. And then I clip a little branch and I just like disarm because I'm like, I don't want to like, try to get out of this thing. And then like there's leaves and stuff going everywhere. And like that's like a holy space right there. So
Mhm.
I disarmed and I was like, well, I got to go get it. So there was a moment where I actually got to walk by myself across Hogan's Bridge to the
Sick.
12th green. And like you talk about like a surreal, almost out of body experience. I was very aware of how lucky and fortunate I was. And even though I was just getting my drone, out of the tree for a second, I was like, it's a core memory. I mean, I'm never gonna forget
Yeah.
that. Like
I
just to
mean,
have
you
that.
can't. You can't. That's so awesome. I mean, not many people can say that they've ever walked over that bridge, much less being able to be one of the few that have flown drones through there. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
fortunate.
I mean, it's yeah, that's insane. That's so awesome.
Yeah,
A lot to unpack there because I think it is awesome to hear kind of like your transition and how you kind of were like again seeing that moment in front of you of like the drone, and it's a common theme from the podcast. Like everybody knows that like aha moment of like the first video that they saw or the
yeah,
first like moment that they're like, damn, I got to get into drones, or like I really want to fly one of these, whether it's just for fun or it's like you saw a business opportunity. It's a lot of like, okay, yep, we wanted to be creative, we wanted to get this angle, we saw this shot, we wanted to emulate it. And I love that you brought it up because there are so many
yeah,
people that their videos go viral. Obviously, awesome for the industry because at the end of the day, like it did bridge the gap between people not knowing like what it is and like how you could use it and the capabilities and all that stuff. But I think when me and you were first introduced, like you were still doing a lot of the real estate, FPV fly through stuff, and you're doing quite a bit of that stuff. So like, how did you transition from, doing a lot of that, doing a lot of the stuff with like Nick Lang Media, doing more of the production level stuff and
yeah.
videography? How did it kind of transition to like, and I always say it, like collaboration over competition and like relationships are key.
Oh,
But is
100%,
that
man.
like did you just like start getting calls from people or like building relationships or like how did you because I want to rifle off some of the production like some of the shoots that you've had, but like can you tell me kind of like a little bit more of like how you started to start seeing this ball rolling down the hill and
Yeah,
getting more of these bigger shoots?
yeah. So I think it's funny that like I was known at one point as like the real estate fly through guy because like that to me was just like something that anybody in real estate knows there's not a lot of money in it, but like to me I was almost like practice. Like I was like, hey, someone's gonna allow me to fly in the house. There's pressure involved, so you're sitting there flying through somebody's house. The real estate agent's looking over your shoulder. There was a lot of practice involved in my like head. Like I was like, I got to get in situations where I'm flying through tight spaces with pressure because like a lot of people could fly in the field on no problem, right? But I needed that like experience of like somebody looking over your shoulder and being able to fly and communicate, because communication is huge in FPV if you're flying, because you have to be flying and also talking to director, producer. But yeah, it's funny that like, for the real estate stuff, because to me that was like such a small part. And I'll still do like fly through for real estate here and there, but it's always just like, yeah, it's good practice.
Yeah.
But I started really like local businesses is what really kind of like went from, I guess, real estate, local businesses, and doing one takes and like fly throughs with like music and adding sound effects and stuff, and just like showing people that it could replace almost uh, a promo video, right? Because at the time I was doing promo videos where I was like filming, editing, and like making the story, but I wanted to focus on making a story with one take. So like I did like a thing for a car dealership where I was like flying just a straight line through like two trucks that had open windows, and then I had a tech grab the drone, and I turned off the motor, and then a guy delivered the line, and then I rearmed and it took off. And like that was something that was a good sample to show people like, hey, look, we can do this like catch drone thing where like somebody is like talking and you cut the motors, because audio, live audio is tough with the drone. But I just kind of started building up all these specific examples of flying around people. And that's where my niche kind of settled on, was flying safely through small gaps and around people. And I got hit up by a television show, America's Biggest Deal, that they were doing this show where there was a bunch of contestants all across the U.S. and they were basically they had a product or a small business where they would pitch to a judge, and then the judges would then pick a winner, and then like their product would be in like Lowe's or like I think the other one was like Macy's or something like that. And I got invited to just do like a demo shoot at this production facility where they're doing the interviews at. And the producer like just wanted me to fly around the interview as it was happening, just for some behind the scenes stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw it and she was like, "This is like crazy. This is like unbelievable. Like, like we got to like talk more and stuff like that." So I left and I get called back and they're like, "Hey, are you available for the next like 4 months?" And I'm like, sure. So they basically, instead of sending a team like a B-roll ENG camera crew to these cities in the US to document these, they sent me and me alone. Like I didn't have an assistant or nothing. So like I basically was traveling by myself and doing these shoots where I was flying a drone through these people's houses, through their businesses. And that kind of just like really, really, really just like changed everything, because I got in a workflow where like I can walk into a place, read it instantly, and be like, all right, here's the line I'm going to fly. I can direct people now, like, because it's hard to direct people for fly through, because like that you have to understand when the drone's flying through, they don't know like what's their cue. Usually, like you have to come up with all these little ways that they know when to start walking, because that's what makes a fly through so like unique, is like how it flows through a space and everything just seems like it's locked in and connected. But that show, and it wasn't a show that like got like great ratings. It was actually like I watched it, I was like, oh, it's cool to see my footage, but like this is rough. But yeah,
What year was that?
that was man, that was like 2021, I think.
Okay.
I got to look at my Instagram. I'm not sure exactly what year that was, but that gave me a lot of experience in like television. And then I took that demo reel I made and I showed it to somebody else. But the big move that kind of changed a lot for what I'm doing now is when I teamed up with Kaze Aerial. So there's a drone company called Kaze. And anyone that knows golf or watches golf, they have seen Kaze's work from the second that that CBS decided to use drones in their broadcast, because these are the guys. Like the guy that owns it, a guy named Lewis. He's been in. He was a regular camera guy for like 20 years for CBS. So like he was following, Tiger Woods in 2008 and stuff. And like he was embedded in that world. And like anyone that knows television production, it's so important to have relationships, right? You can't just like email info@cbs.com and be like, "Hey, I'm Nick. I'd like to fly for your broadcast." It takes a lot of trust and a lot of relationship building to get to that point. And I was super fortunate that somebody locally recommended me to Kaze, because Kaze was looking for an FPV pilot to do these whole flights, and they hit me up, and then I went. The first time I worked with them, it was for one of the matches in Las Vegas at the Wynn, and just them explaining what they wanted me to do, and like it's just funny thinking about it, because like now we've been working together so long, and it all started just because one of the pilots had COVID. So he was stuck on a cruise ship, and they called me up like, all right, let's try this guy from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, that was recommended to us. So they took a risk, and immediately, I mean, it worked out. And like, like I bring a level of professionalism and just like calmness, I think, when I'm flying, that you're going to get the results you're looking for. But so after the match, I thought, all right, that was a great experience. Kaze seems like a great company to work with. I hope they call me again. And that was kind of it for like a few weeks. And then they hit me back up, and they were like, hey, have you heard of Live Golf? And I was like, yeah, I heard of Live Golf. Like, what's all that? And at the time, like, it was still going like through this transition, and people were like really, really like, whoa, Live Golf, like, yikes, man. Like,
Mhm.
so but what was cool about Live was that they were looking for something that was like just wild and like kind of groundbreaking, because if you go to a Live uh event, there it's a party, man. Like there's like,
Completely different.
yeah, like there's music at each tee box. There's bars everywhere. Like it's just fun, man. It's just so much fun, and nothing against PGA, but it's just a different environment. So what was cool is they wanted to try a lot of stuff, and they were open to a lot of things. So one of the things that they were open to was an FPV whole flight. So instead of doing a traditional Inspire 2 down the fairway, we wanted to try an FPV one. So that's kind of like where I really got started with the golf. After that, they loved it. I like hearing the commenters talk about my footage, like on replay, like when I was at home and I was watching it. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like they were like, this is the coolest golf shot we've ever seen. This is how you throw off holes. And like it was just cool. And I'm like, again, I thought, okay, that was a cool gig, but I don't know if it's gonna, they would want me more. And they just loved it so much that they booked me for Kazeo was booked for the rest of the season, and that we do all the US ones. We're doing 2 international ones. But yeah, Kaze is literally embedded in live golf. I mean, like they are the premier. Anybody that's doing live golf is working with Kaze. I mean, they've perfected it really. Um, and I'm just lucky to be a part of it. And like I bring something to the table that they were in need of. So super fortunate. Lewis, the guy that's the producer, like we did the RBC Heritage was the last one we did, and we did live FPV
That was
during
this
actual
past week.
play, which like, I mean, when they explained that to me, I'm like, excuse me, what we're gonna do live FPV while guys are playing golf, PGA, at the signature event. I'm like, okay, like let's make it happen. So I hit up Troy from Quad Standard Labs, who a lot of people use in the community, and he's great. And I say, hey man, I got this gig where they want me to fly live. He had built me an Air Unit 03 5-inch, and I said, can you just extend the mount and do anything that makes it just fly better, smoother, with no GoPro on it. I just want this thing to be as quiet as possible. And he modified it, and he actually put 2 Air Unit 03 antennas on instead of just one. Still going to the Air Unit original pin, but are still using the original Air Unit antenna, just 2 of them. So we did that, and that was probably the cool. I mean, the master stuff obviously was incredible, but like when you talk about like game changing and like being the first to ever do that, that was something special. Like I was flying literally following like Scotty Scheffler was walking down the fairway, like as part of a CBS broadcast that they cut to live. So anyone that knows FPV, how blessed we are with Real Steady. Like Real Steady takes care of a lot of movements that people just don't even know about until they see raw footage. So when they, told me like, yeah, we're going to go come out of the air unit, I showed them, hey, this is the result we can get, 1080p. We'll come out of the Mavic controller, and then we send it to the truck, and then they proved of it during the test day, and we said, great. This is good quality. And then I just had my rates dialed in where like I wasn't relying on any Real Steady. So like it was just a different style of flying where you have to really think about every single like adjustment, because usually if you're flying and you're good enough pilot, you're not thinking about all that stuff. Like you watch some of your DVR footage and you don't realize like how many little micro adjustments you're making. But when I was flying live FPV, I had to like change the way I flew really, and just like lock it in and just really think about it the next 3 turns instead of the next turn. But that was extremely exciting. That was probably, I don't I don't want to like boast, but I don't get like nervous anymore. Like I don't like start shaking like I did when you racing drones or anything. But when I took off for that, I got that feeling of like, oh, okay, all right. Like I felt like I
This
kind
is
of missed
real.
the feeling. I'm like, oh, all right. And you know, like footage turned out great. After the first battery, I landed and like nerves were gone. But it was just something that I'm like super proud to be a part of because you know the
That's
PGA
awesome.
loved or CBS loved it. Directors, you know, wants to do it more. And it was just something that I was just like, anything could have happened, man. You know, FPV, like anything
Right,
could
and you
have
never know, and live
happened.
too. I mean, like live, and but we were talking about it before a little bit more on Instagram. It's like you sent me those clips, and I'm like, man, you good. Like one, like you have to obviously just do safe flights because it's the first time that you're ever doing a live PGA event with FPV flying around players. I mean, that one with Fitzpatrick, like you're pretty
Yeah.
close to him, like, and it's like he's
Take a
walking
pause.
down the fairway, and you're pretty close to him, the Matt Fitzpatrick one, and then you bank it out towards the water,
Yeah,
and but it's like you can't really push the boundaries too much right away because it's like, all right, we just got to make this work. Like I
right.
want it to be a smooth flight, and then it's like, all right, now we can figure it out after that of how far we can actually
Yeah,
take this
and
thing, right? And
that's so true, and it's credit to, like I said, the team I work with because, like me, sometimes like I see something I see a line, I'm like, oh man, I could do this, I could do that, right? And I remember my producer literally telling me like we're just literally gonna keep this so simple, just like you're saying. And he's just like, all right, let's go here. We planned out the actual one shot we practiced like 2 days before, and we're like, this is the shot, like, and I did it. I went right on the fairway, and then I went by the flag, and then I went out to the ocean, and like if we got that shot aired, we were money. Like that was like a win in our book. Like we get that, we're good. And the director picked us up a lot more than we thought we were going to be picked up for. So there were times where, like you said, you have to have that mindset of like nothing can go wrong. Not like I hope nothing goes wrong. Literally nothing can go wrong in this moment, or you will never be called again. You will be blasted probably on social media. Like imagine a FPV drone falling out of the sky at the PGA. Do you realize how like that behind the broadcast would pick that up? Like people would pick that up,
oh
and then your potentially your name's ruined. So like there's no joke doing that stuff. And like I wouldn't have done it without like a quad standard lab build. Like I said, like Troy, built an amazing craft. And like I don't boast myself as being somebody that builds from scratch anymore. Like I fly so often that I hired Troy to build my fleet, and then if I need to replace something, I'll replace some motors, things like that. But I tell people all the time, you shouldn't really be flying to the point where you're fixing every single day. Like you got to know your limits, and you got to know what you're capable of, and then deliver that. Because uh, people talking to FPV, it's FPV. You're gonna crash. You're gonna do this. I'm like, no, like you really should be at a point where you know your limit, kind of. And
yeah.
no client wants to hear like, oh well, that's part of the workflow. No, it's not part of the workflow. It's like some things are gonna happen. You can't predict everything, but like
Yeah.
like it has to be to a point where you're just locked in. And there's bubbles on my screen somehow.
Apparently, yeah. The new updates with everything now puts like thumbs up and all kinds of
Yeah,
random
okay.
stuff.
I can only see
Yeah,
like a
right.
portrait mode version. I don't know if there was anything in that bubble. Or, he's
Yeah,
like, it's
but
the
it
bubble
was
just
just a
says
thumbs up.
rambling on, Nick rambling on.
No,
Rap.
no, I don't know why they're all of them do it now.
Yeah,
But it's funny because we talked about it before too. Is like I think you actually introduced me to Troy, and Troy's actually going to be on the episode after you, which is just a coincidence
yeah.
that happened. Honestly,
You
but
might need a
you
3 hour podcast for Troy.
yeah,
And
right. Add it in.
yeah, I'll tell him that all day because yeah, there's some times where I get on the phone with Troy and I'll say, "Hey man, I was wondering if you could," and then for the next 15 minutes, Troy's going on because he's just so knowledgeable of
But yeah,
everything. He's
yeah.
just like, just go.
He's trying to figure it all out
Yeah.
too,
Oh
and
my
like
gosh.
he's very good at understanding like what are you gonna need it for, like what could go wrong, what can
Yeah, yeah. Troy's
planning
great,
for
man.
those moments that like he just knows more than what the average person
Yeah.
knows, right?
Let
It's
him
like, yep,
cook.
you need 203, antennas,
Yep.
like all that's like
I said,
someone else may not have thought of it. Okay, great, yeah, you think
let me
that's what we
say,
need, then that's what we
boss,
need.
send it to me and I'll
Yeah.
fly it. Yeah,
But that's the good thing too is like you understand, and you're at the point now where it's like I don't have the time or the knowledge, or you probably have the knowledge, but
Well,
like the time and the know-how to just like continuously wrap yourself up and building quads and repairing them and doing all that stuff. Where it's like, hey, just build me one. I'm gonna focus on flying and doing
Yeah,
this. And
he's focused
uh,
on building as much as I am like flying. So like that's what I say all the time. Like if there's somebody better at me doing something, then I'm going to work with them because I mean why not? Like
yeah,
whatever they
yeah,
charge, fine. You know, it's cost of business. Let's make it happen because it's just peace of mind too. And there's moments too, like
yeah,
I was saying, like with the Masters, when you're told you're going to be flying in the champions locker room, where like like under maybe 100 people I've even walked into, like there's moments where I can't think about, oh man, I hope this new ESC I put on there is going to be okay. It's like, no, no, I
right.
gotta have it locked in beforehand. Um,
Yep.
but yeah,
And
I want to do it.
yeah, and that's what you got to do. I mean, you just have to have that peace of mind at the
Yeah,
end of the
oh,
day that everything's going to be good. And man, it's just a testament to going above and beyond too, to making sure that testing and everything else is good to go before you pull the trigger on those moments, right? Especially during the live event
yeah.
stuff.
Gosh.
Um, well, so what would you say? I mean, we talked about a lot, but I know you've done some other awesome stuff. You talked about the Nitro Circus. You're flying for Live. You're doing PGA Live stuff now. You've done stuff with like Tony Hawk, Bob Burnquist.
Yeah,
Like
dude.
me as like a kid, like I was also one of those things. Like I would pick up little fads. Like I was a skateboarder
Oh
for
man.
like, for like 6 months, maybe a year.
Yeah,
Built a
yeah,
ramp
yeah.
in my yard. It was like that alone would be
Oh,
like
dude,
so.
I gotta show you this then.
Uh oh.
This is a prized possession of mine then. So this is a tiny whoop case, right? And I got
Oh,
Tony
nice.
Hawk,
Nice.
Tony Alva, Bob Burnquist, right? So
Nice.
what's so special about this is I had them sign it because I introduced them to FPV. Oh, I don't have the tiny whoop in there, but when I was working for this, we were filming this documentary called Humanity Stoked, and I wasn't even doing drone work for it. It was in that phase where like I was starting to get into more FPV, but I was just doing regular drone work, right? And I found myself sitting down filming Tony Hawk in his office, and I had my little tiny whoop, and I'm like, hey man, you want to check this out? And I put goggles on him, and he's like, whoa, this is cool. And I'm like, is that your first time? He's
Mm.
like, yeah, it's my first time. I was like, oh my god. So like I introduced him to that, and then Bob Burnquist, man, we were at his house, and like I'm flying around, and he flies helicopters, like he's already all into it, and I'm like, here's the stick, so he's flying it around, and then Tony Alva, same thing, and like these are guys that like legends, and to be able to share something like that with them, it's like that case, priceless to me. Like that's just like a
That's
moment
so
that
cool.
every time I look at it, I smile, and like that gig was incredible. I've had opportunity. I've been on Richard Branson's private island, the Necker Island, for a week, where I was the only videographer and drone pilot because the other guy got sick and couldn't make the flight. So like instead of just doing the drone stuff, I did both, and I was like uploading footage and they were editing overnight. It's crazy, but that was incredible. Richard Branson actually mooned my drone on one of his walks. I said, I'm not going to write a book, but if I ever did write a book, I'd title it "Richard Branson Mooned My Drone" because it was just like, yeah, he was on a walk and I'm flying the Inspire, and like he was leading all the people through the path or whatever, and then he literally just drops his pants. I'm like, what the is that Richard Branson? I'm like, that's Richard Branson. He's moving my drone. I'm like, no one's gonna believe this because I couldn't put it like in the edit at all.
Yeah, you can't post
No, no,
that.
but
Yeah,
I
you
got the
can't put
footage. I got the footage. I'll send you the link. It's hilarious, but like that was
that
a
is
wild
awesome.
one. I got to fly in Madison Square Garden with the NBA and Louis Vuitton. That was incredible. That was like the first time that Madison Square Garden opened up after COVID. The TV show America's Biggest Deal was incredible. The golf stuff just has so much attached to it because like you're talking like Augusta. I mean, like you get to go to Augusta even if you're a patron, like they don't call them like fans. If you're a patron, it's an rewarding experience. But like I've had the opportunity to walk those fairways, those greens, that go in the champions locker room, and then also just do something I'm already passionate about and fly that. I mean, like, dude, that's got to be top. That's the 100% the
Yeah,
top one there.
has to be. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking maybe I'm missing some of the big ones, but like, just I don't know, man. Like I try not to get like super like involved, like hyped up about one particular thing because like as you know, like you could hear about a project and then it just like turns out it fizzles out or something like that. But like there's definitely some like some core memories that I'd mentioned there that have been incredible, and just honestly just like seeing people that are accepting FPV now is is just amazing because like now it is the
And
thing, and I don't have to tell anybody anymore, like, "Yo, this is gonna be the thing." "Oh, yeah, okay, Nick, yeah, sure, like, go fly that toy somewhere else." It's like, "No, no, no, this is, like, the thing now," and there's a lot of guys that are, making a career out of it, and I'm just lucky to be one of the OGs, I guess, because like, when I started, like, there weren't a lot of any people doing it, so I still have people, like, message me and like, "Hey, how do you get started?" I'm always like, "Dude, what's your number?
Yeah.
Let's talk," because like, I I wanna share this, like, this passion with people, and, like, I want people to be able to quit their job and, like, do this for a living and, like, do all the crazy stuff because, like, it's just super rewarding, and if you're, like, you're your best self and you're in a job that's, like, you're passionate about, it trickles over to your life. Like, you're gonna be happier, you're gonna things are gonna start working out for you because, like, you don't have that stress of, like, "Man, I wish I was doing something else," which too many people just settle for. It's just they don't do what they're passionate about, and then they wake up 30 years later and like, "Shit, man, I should have flown that drone." It's like, I don't wanna
Right.
have that regret. So,
Hey,
the
and that's the
future
way
is
to
job.
live, man. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that's the best thing. It's like, hey, just go for it. Like at the end of the day, you still want to be able to know that you can make a business out of it and you can have yourself secure and all that. But you never know until you try,
yeah.
right? Until you actually kind of go for it. And one of the things too, I always love asking too is like, where do you see yourself
Oh,
now?
it's
Kind of like
paused again.
you've been doing a lot of different golf stuff. You've been doing a lot of different jobs throughout, your time flying. Where do you kind of see the trajectory of where's Nick Lang going to be in like a year to 5 years? Like what's the goal?
I don't know where I'll be. I'll say that because like if you would have asked me 4 years ago where I'd be, I'd have a totally different answer. I didn't think it'd be golf, but I would be very happy doing golf still, of course. Um, I think when you're working for a different company like Kaze, like I have to wear their brand basically. Like I'm part of their team, which I love being a part of. But like I'm not out there like on job like, hey, I'm Nick Lang, like call me and stuff like that. Like it's like no, I'm Kaze Ariel for I'm honored to be part of their team. So like I'm marketing them, on the jobs and stuff. I would love honestly to do more projects under my name. So like just reaching out locally when I'm home and I'm not flying for Live or the PGA or CBS. I would love to do just more one take fly throughs because that's something that I just enjoy so much and like that's what I really started in and just to kind of like see what's possible and in that realm. I would love to do more of that, but I will never say that I won't enjoy doing more golf because it's just so special to be a part of. So
For
that's probably
sure.
where I
I
see
mean,
myself.
and
Doing more golf and then maybe some more fly through one takes would be great.
love it, man. Well, I'll definitely be continuously following the journey and seeing where you're going and where you're at in the future and continuing on. Hopefully, we can connect again. It's been too long. I know we said 2019, but it felt like it's been forever. So hopefully, we can meet up again soon.
Yeah.
So what I always like to just end too, like where can people reach out to you, follow, where can they find your stuff? I know you're pretty active on social in a lot of ways, but like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
who do you want to connect with? Who do you and where can you be reached?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say that thank you, man, for having me on this podcast. Like I said earlier, like there's nothing more enjoyable sometimes than just sitting down and talking about drones with somebody else that's in the industry. So it's like huge honor, man. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. Anybody that's on this page and this channel, they really do appreciate it, man. Like it's just
Appreciate
fun.
it.
It's just fun to talk drones for an hour, right? I'm
Yep.
gonna go mow the grass after this, so like it's fun.
Same.
Yeah, it's just fun. So I appreciate that, man. And you're great at what you do
Yeah.
too. Like this is very easy. Like you're great,
Thanks,
man.
man.
But yeah. So on socials, probably Instagram, Nick Lang Media on Instagram. DM me. Follow my work. I again, there's the other side of like working for a different company a lot. I'm not doing a lot of posting these days, and like I wish I was doing more. So I might start posting more. Um, but yeah, that's how I get a lot of my work. So if anyone's interested in working with me, Nick Lang Media on Instagram or Ariel's at nicklangmedia.com or nicklangmedia.com. But yeah, that's
Love
the
it.
easiest way, I guess. Yeah.
Sweet, man. Yeah, well, we'll put all of your links as always in the show notes. So easy access for anybody that's listening to it, wherever you're at. Give us some love on this episode if you do love it. It helps us kind of get more awesome guests like Nick on as well. and share your story. And I appreciate you sharing your story today with us, Nick, because it was an awesome trajectory and story as well. So,
Thanks, man.
again, appreciate you being on, and everybody else, safe flying.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks again.